Hello, my name is Brittany Chenelle, and welcome to Grady NewSource Spotlight. Today, I'm joined in the studio with the awesome SiMan Baby. SiMan, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Brittany. How are you today?
I'm great, and I'm so happy to have you in here for our last Grady NewSource Spotlight. So, Si, I wanted to start off with talking to you about how did you get into the radio business?
Wow, the radio business for me started as a high school summer job. 1980. I'm a 16-year-old kid going to high school, and I get a summer job at a country radio station in Eatonton, Georgia.
Wow.
And 2 hours a week turned into 2 hours a day, which turned into 4 hours a day, which just, it kept me, you know. So that's where I started, and I was able to work it since I was going into my senior kingdom in high school. I had a little work flex program that I could do, and I could go to the radio station to start the day and then go to school afterwards. So it was good, it was fun.
Okay, and I heard you went to UGA for a little bit, didn't you?
I went to UGA in 1985, and when I was in Athens, I was working at WXAG, 1470 AM. And it's funny, I'll tell you this real quick. I planned that, and I was listening. And I said, okay, I'm listening to the guy working at the radio station. I would drive into school every day because I was a commuting student.
Oh, wow.
I would drive into school listening to the guy, and I heard the morning man, who I found out was the program director. So I heard him on in the morning, and then I heard him on in the afternoon one day. So I'm like, okay, he's tired today. He's worked a double. So I went and hung out at the station until after he came off the air and called him and said, look, don't you need another person to call?
There you go.
And it worked out.
So did you ever work with the campus radio station here?
I did not work with a campus radio station since I was working with a professional station. I got that job shortly after coming to UGA. But I was young and I was a party man, so I opened a club where the Classic Center is now, and that was called Rumors back in the day. So I've done all kinds of things here at Athens. A lot of fun.
Wow. Okay, and so now I understand that you work at Radio 1 for Majic 107.5, 97.5. So how long have you been there?
I've been with Radio 1 for 11 years.
Okay.
Prior to that, I worked for KISS 104, then V103, then KISS 104. I would just bounce back and forth to wherever I could go. I was always in search of ABC, a bigger check. So whoever had one, that's where I went, you know?
I love it.
Yeah, so I've been with Radio 1 for 11 years and started as the morning man for Classic Soul 102.5, and now I'm the evening man for Majic 107.5, 97.5.
Okay, and what is it about being a radio personality do you love the most? Like, what aspect of it gets you hype?
Well, you know, I think because I worked in TV as well. I was a TV news director in Macon for a little while, and I was a weatherman. So I've done all kinds of things, and I think television is kind of like a football team, where it takes a lot of members of the team all coming together when the producer or director says hike to make the shots and make the play happen. Radio is a little more like baseball, where each individual gets a chance to stand up to the plate and swing and either hit a home run or strike out. You know, so you get your own individual chance to shine or fail. And I think I like both of them, but I think radio, at least radio back in the day, had a lot more of that you're the star kind of quality to it. It was a lot of fun. It's changed a lot now, though.
It's changed. So what type of changes do you think have happened for, I guess, the better and the worse?
Well, some of the good is that there are more opportunities for more people in more avenues of radio because of the internet radio, satellite radio. All those things are great, and they give a high school student, if they have some content that they want to produce and put on an internet radio station, they can do that pretty inexpensively and build a following. The downside is there's more competition for radio than ever before. So the big companies are now looking for ways to cut, because you have all of these internet stations and things that are springing up that don't cost as much to run, so they don't cost as much to advertise with. And that's competition for traditional terrestrial radio. So that's the downside. But you know, it's still fun, it's still viable, and it's still doing its thing.
Okay, and I know you also do like voiceover work as well. And how does that feel as like a radio personality and also doing voiceovers for commercials? Because a lot of people don't know that, you know, most of personalities do voice commercials.
Well, there are a couple of ways that we do that. The number one way is just to lend your voice as a voice to a product for a fee. there are endorsements, really like endorsements, because then we get paid every time they
Right.
run, or if they continue for a number of weeks, then we get paid for the entire run of that schedule. So I like that. But it just gives you other options and other avenues and other ways to stay viable. A lot of people, when they find themselves no longer employed for a radio station, it's one of the first things they do, especially with today's technology. You can set up a little studio with a computer and a couple of systems to compress your voice and change your voice quality. You can do that pretty inexpensively. And as long as you've made some contacts with other people in other places, you can reach out to other businesses or reach out to other stations, people in other markets, and be a fresh voice for that market. So it makes a lot of sense.
Okay, and then for students who go here who are probably interested in radio, like I know UGA's journalism program is more focused on the television side. So what advice would you give to those students who are interested in radio but not sure how to, I guess, enter into that venue or get experience there?
Well, I would encourage any student to not wait to try to be hired. I would encourage any student to go after an internship with a radio company, because it helps to make some contacts with some people, get to know some people, see how stations run, see the do's, see the don'ts, learn from everybody, because everybody can teach you something. Some people will teach you what to do, other people will teach you what not to do. You decide what is best for you.
Right.
But I encourage most people to just what I said a few minutes ago, start your own. These days, companies don't necessarily look for new talent. The downside is I see a lot of students go through the program, go through the motions, go through the internship, and then there's no job because companies have either used automation with these, computer programs are better than ever, or they use syndication, like Steve Harvey and Michael Baisden, Howard Stern, whoever. They use the syndicated shows. So that doesn't give you a place. But what it does allow is it allows you to take advantage of the technology that's here, start your own internet show, create your own database of people, build it, and if you make enough of a buzz, terrestrial radio will find you. I'll just say this, and this is my own personal theory. My own personal theory is companies and corporations have taken radio to the point that they have overmanaged, where back in the day, if you went to Baltimore or DC, that market had its own sound. You went to New York, it had its own sound. You go to Chicago, it had its own sound. New Orleans, and so forth and so on. Now, with syndication, everybody sounds the same. And now you have more options than ever before. So I think after a while, you're going to see executives say, well, we need to take advantage of the local flavor and we need to make our stations more locally targeted. Because that's what you see TV doing. You see TV making more and more targeted, focused programming. And radio is going to have to do the same thing. But if you do that, and if you start to build and develop a target audience now and build it up, by the time your group is large and significant, terrestrial radio stations will find you to try to integrate your programming and your following and your buzz into their programming.
Nice. And so I know you work with interns sometimes at Radio 1. So give me, I guess, the most ambitious intern that you've ever worked with. What's something that they have done in their time of interning?
Well, one thing I would encourage all interns to do, and I've seen it done, is they try to schedule a little time all around the station. They don't just come in and say, I want to be on the air. And that's all they expose themselves to.
Right.
Because when you get in there, sometimes you see, well, this isn't as free as I thought it was going to be. It's more restrictive than I thought it was going to be. So I don't really, that's not me. Or if you find someone who's good with their hands, who can take anything apart and put it back together, I encourage those folks not to fool around with on air. Go for engineering because engineering is, that's going to be there. And I don't care how much equipment they get until we get to the days where the Terminator exists and the computers put the computers together and take them apart. We're going to need people to do that. So there are other people who have great bubbly personalities, but not necessarily have the great image for TV or for, and radio is not just radio anymore, it's all digital media. So what we do on the radio is now on the web. So we're actually in front of cameras as well now. Some people are great at selling. They just have a natural knack for selling. So it's like, put yourself on out there and make that money because they make commission.
Oh, yes,
if you
they
sell
do.
a lot, you get a lot, So I would encourage people and interns to schedule a little time, and you're going to have to be aggressive because people in jobs are only interested in doing what's going to make them some money. They're not all interested. You'll find some people every now and then who are nice.
Right. Yeah.
And who are bringing people up. But a lot of people are not concerned with your schedule. That's your schedule, that's your life.
Yeah.
So if you're not going to be aggressive enough to reach out to me and to ask me what I do and to, try to involve yourself in my daily routine, I'm not going to share it with you. Right. There are other people who are insecure. They don't want to share a lot because they're afraid. If I teach you too well, you might take my job. And you're new, you're a rookie, you'll be less expensive, Yeah. So there are a lot of concerns, but I would say the most aggressive interns take advantage of spending a little time in the many facets of any business and try to find out what best suits them or if it suits them at all.
Okay, awesome. And so the last question I always ask all of my interviewees is give the viewers a random fact about yourself.
A random fact about SiMan Baby. I'm probably most known for spinning old school R&B music.
Okay.
But in my personal downtime, that is not what I listen to.
So what do you listen to?
It's very similar to working at a pizza place, and then when you get off, the last thing you want to see is pizza. So I personally listen to classical. Okay. I'm a Mozart, Beethoven, Tchaikovsky man.
Wow.
And jazz. I listen to classical and jazz. So anything orchestral, I'm all about. That's what I love.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you, SiMan, for joining us here in the Grady NewSource studio for our last Grady NewSource Spotlight.
Thank you, Brittany. I appreciate the invitation.
You're welcome. So it's Brittany Chenelle signing off here in the Grady NewSource studio for the last Spotlight of the year. Thank you for joining us, and join us in the fall.